Maybe I do this. Go live. Hey. There we go. Now we are live. Figuring this thing out. Hello. Welcome officially. I intended to start this live stream with the blank screen, so I just spent the past 5 minutes talking to you and welcoming you while drawing what you now see on the screen here. But I didn't quite have the connections correctly turned on. I'm using a system software called OBS, and I also kind of scheduled this live stream through YouTube, so there was just one extra go live button that I hadn't hit. Hello, Michael. Good to see your face, your thumbnail face there, and thanks for confirming that we're now live. So welcome, everyone, to the first in a month of experimentation with some live-streamed sketchnoting. I'll be chatting today about why I'm doing this. I'll also share my setup for doing this, like how kind of the combination of tools that allow me to sketch alongside you and kind of broadcast this directly to YouTube, which is pretty cool. Like, I know people are probably used to this now, a year into the pandemic, but just what we're able to do with technology is pretty cool these days. So I'm excited to bring this particular setup to YouTube. We've been doing things that look a lot like this within Verbal to Visual, with the weekly workshops that we've got going there. I recognize a few names already in the text chat from folks who have been active participants within Verbal to Visual, so I appreciate you joining here as well. And what I will mention up front, we'll have some time today for some Q&A about anything sketchnoting related. So if you have a question about sketchnoting at any point, or a specific question about like the things that I'm going to sketch out here in terms of like why I'm doing this and the specific setup that I'm doing, at any point if a question comes up, drop it in the text chat. I will keep an eye on it. I'm guessing it won't be too fast for me to be able to keep up with a little bit. Hello, Karen. Good to see you. Tarun, hello. Joining us from India. Vicky from San Antonio, Texas. Rita Carey. Rita, long time no see. Long time no talk. Another kind of long-term Verbal to Visual friend. Welcome to Liz as well. Good to see you this morning, Liz, who says good morning from Washington State, just up north of me. It's only about like 10 miles, not even. It's like basically directly north of Portland. You cross the Columbia River and enter the state of Washington. It's your little geography lesson for this morning. Okay, I'm going to get some blank space on the screen here. The only prep that I've done for today's live stream, and this is a constraint that I'm intentionally putting on this process, is there are a few specific things that I want to talk about. Why I'm live streaming my sketch notes. It's going to be the first topic here. The second is my live streamed sketchnoting setup, so you know what tools I'm using. And then we're going to hop into Q&A. But for those first two topics, I just have like a bullet point list of some things I want to mention. And I want to create the sketches live here. So that's what I've got as a reference. So let's dig into that first topic. Let's see if Concepts keeps up with me. So the first thing I wanted to explore here is that question of why. why am I live streaming my sketch notes to YouTube in real time at this pace that might feel slow if you've only ever watched videos here on the Verbal to Visual YouTube channel and maybe haven't joined us for a live workshop inside Verbal to Visual. You might have gotten used to this like sped up pace of sketchnoting. And part of my purpose with this is to show you something a little bit different. So one of the reasons that I want to do this consistently, not just once, this is going to be a thing that I do throughout the month of March and then probably again after a bit of a break, which I'll get to in a second. One of the reasons I want to do this is I want to get better. Whoops. There's going to be lots of mistakes here. I want to get better at talking and thinking while writing and drawing. So part of this is a little bit of kind of selfish skill building involved here in the development. Got to move some layers around here. I'm using concepts. Make sure that my highlighter layer is actually under the other one. I really like the potential of sketchnoting, of visual thinking in general, to be this tool that folks can use in conversations with others, in meetings, in any situation where you want to more clearly express an idea, and not just express an idea, but explore it. Have a conversation about it, try to figure out what's going on with whatever it is that you're exploring in that time. And I think there's a lot of power in like the combo of these four things that I just described. These very four like somewhat different and distinct tasks that I think will take a lot of practice to get good at it. So to be doing kind of all of these things at once, and really it's, as I now like think about the visual way that I want to express this, it's much more of like a cyclical process, right? I'm going to try to kind of speak my thoughts as frequently as possible, or like there's a pacing issue to the talking and thinking and writing and drawing that is involved when I mention like getting good at this. How about I use I'll have a couple of different kind of writing devices, even though I am of course only using one. Got my Apple Pencil here. Oops, I don't want all of those things. So it's like doing these different things kind of all at once, but you're kind of cycling through them, right? And it's probably not even always in that order. Like you're going in all these different directions. So I think when I talk about like getting good at this, it's getting good at kind of doing all of those things at once, but also getting good at bouncing back and forth between any two of those things. And I guess I'm doing that within this relatively controlled environment where there's a text chat that allows for some communication between you and me. But like, I'm not, facilitating an event. I'm not keeping up with the kind of live things going on elsewhere in the room. So it's kind of like a controlled environment here, even though there is some pressure around presenting this live on YouTube. When I kind of forget about that, it's just like a few of us having a conversation here and me sketching out some ideas that I find to be interesting. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention about why I'm doing this live streaming. Second, I'm going to give myself a little bit more room here, going with kind of a mind map approach as I build out these ideas here. The second reason I'm doing this is I would like to deepen my connection with the YouTube audience, with you. So even though I've been publishing consistently here on YouTube for a while, I feel like I still haven't hit my groove. Like, I haven't found the format here, the style, the rhythm that I felt really good about. And I think to get to that rhythm, get to that place, I liked the idea of just having kind of more direct interaction with you, and kind of move somewhat in a similar direction as we've moved inside of Verbal to Visual. So those that have a membership with Verbal to Visual, thank you so much for being a part of that learning environment. We got a good schedule there. We've got our weekly workshops. We've got a prompt that I post every Monday. I just posted that one like 20 minutes ago. Places there for you to share your sketchnoting work through the courses that I offer there. I feel good about what's going on within that space. And I've enjoyed the connectedness there, the sense of community that's building there. And I kind of want to bring some of that sense of community here to YouTube, because I think that'll make this space more interesting for me, and I hope more interesting and valuable for the folks who just watch on YouTube, and maybe like a Verbal to Visual membership isn't like the right fit for you now, or that's just not something that you're interested in. Bringing some of that, some of those dynamics, some of that level of connection to YouTube here. So we've got YouTube, and we've got a bunch of folks hanging out here. And there are I have mentioned this in a few different places, but I stopped using all other social media platforms outside of YouTube. Not that there aren't other interesting conversations going on in other places, but I have found that from a focus standpoint, an engagement standpoint, YouTube is the one that I am most interested in and want to invest more time and energy into, because there are a lot of super interesting things going on here just within this single platform. It's where I spend the most time watching other folks, and it's where I want to spend more time myself kind of developing some connections and fine-tuning what it is that I do here. So this is an opportunity for me to connect more, and on a deeper level, let's add an N. Thank you, Digital Sketchnoting and Concepts, to allow this type of editing. That's another thing that I hope to do. And part of that is, I mentioned earlier, some Q&A. Some of that will involve like opening it up for Q&A so that there's a form of dialogue, even though it's a little different than like the webinars we have inside of Verbal to Visual using Zoom when like multiple people can hop on the call. So it's a little bit more one directional, but we still do have that text chat as a place for conversations to take place. And at the moment, I'm not keeping a close eye on that text chat, but I think in between each of the different topics I want to explore today, I'll check back in with that text chat. So I will be looking at that pretty soon here. Let's create a little bit more space for myself. With this experiment too, it's different. It's different than anything really I've done on YouTube, especially. And what I want to do, what I'm choosing to emphasize with this format is I want to emphasize enthusiasm over polish. And I want to slay perfectionism. One of the books that I just finished recently was called, I think it's just called Creative Calling by Chase Jarvis. And at some point, the topic of enthusiasm around your work, I think it was in a section that talked about how you go about sharing your work with others, and even like doing your work. And what I've noticed, even just like the previous 2 or 3 videos that I've shared here on YouTube, I have kind of done a lot of prep work. I used Keynote to make these animated, these drawn animations. I scripted the narration to go along with it. And even though like I like those videos, they're good ish. They don't have the same enthusiasm. Like my enthusiasm for visual thinking and sketchnoting specifically, but also just like the topics that I'm addressing, I don't think my enthusiasm comes through in the way that I want it to in those scripted, polished videos. So this is a way to bring that enthusiasm in that just comes with doing something live like this, knowing that there are other people watching this right now. It brings a different level of energy, and I think kind of like a truer energy to this work than some previous formats that I've experimented with. And then anything that you can do to like get rid of perfectionism with no matter what sort of creative work you're doing, that's an important thing. I am going to cheat and use those same 2 words there because I want to do kind of a scale diagram. Let me put those off to the side first. One of my recurring visual elements that I use fairly frequently, it's kind of at first complicated to draw, is this scale like this. Let's see if I gave myself enough room here. So what am I weighting more than anything else? I wonder why that changed from a highlight to just an underline. Oh well, I will delete you. Well, how about we just rewrite that? Not the best form of this visual, but again, that's kind of the point here. I'm choosing to weight my enthusiasm for these ideas over presenting them only in these polished, scripted, super well diagrammed ways. But even like with that, getting back to like the first thing that I mentioned, it is something that I think I can get better at. So from like a skill building perspective, even though I'm not emphasizing polish, I do want to get better at representing these ideas, sketching out ideas in real time. So that skill building aspect is something that I kind of appreciate about this. I'm going to give myself a bit more room, get away from that welcome sign. Welcome, by the way, if you have just recently joined us for the first in a series of live stream sketch notes throughout the month of March. This is why I'm doing it. And there are 3 more reasons. The next reason that I want to do this, that I am doing this, is I want a space to explore interesting, come on, concepts. Pen's not quite reacting in the way that I want it to. Maybe I just need a little more pressure. You might have heard my dog Murphy getting comfortable just above me, scratching out of bed for himself for a little bit. So often my plan for these live streams, it's kind of like, it's going to be a little bit of a combination of me kind of presenting ideas in the way that I am now, or at least introducing topics in some form. But then part of it will be this conversational piece for folks to be able to contribute their perspectives within the comments to get to some picture of the question that I've identified, or the particular topic we want to explore. This is a thing that I've really enjoyed about verbal to visual in the weekly workshops that we have there, and that we're going to continue doing there, is the opportunity to get diverse perspectives. One reason that I love the like visual thinking community is how global it is, and how like visual communication can help bring people together, even when like we don't all speak the same, we're not all native English speakers, but we can still kind of come together, in part because of the added benefits of kind of communicating visually. So I really like the idea of creating this space to continue exploring topics, more often than not related to visual thinking, but also related to kind of creativity and entrepreneurship and education in general. I'll be bringing in ideas from the books that I'm reading and the podcasts that I'm listening to, kind of the stuff that I've been sketchnoting that you've seen on this channel already, continuing to sketch those types of ideas out, but also have more of a conversation around them. Let's give that its own little space. The other reason I'm doing this live live and improvised. Relatively improvised. I do have this like bullet point notes off to the side here. It's to depict what visual thinking actually looks like. This gets back to a point that I mentioned earlier, how, you know, most of the videos that I've shared on this channel, while they are designed to be these helpful short recaps and these kind of like quick presentations, you see all the writing and the drawing sped up to align with the narration. Sometimes I think that gives a false perception about what sketchnoting actually looks like in real time and what it will feel like for you to do this, because that's the whole purpose of this channel, is to help you develop these skills. And I think to do it in real time like this is more valuable. That's kind of my hypothesis, at least. And I think it also has the potential to be more interesting. And again, it's a different style of thing than the shorter, polished, sped up videos. So some people might not want to watch this type of live stream, and that's totally cool. I will continue sharing the other form of video on this channel as well. But I like the potential for this to show what it actually looks like. Especially from a pacing perspective. So you'll get a sense for a better sense for the pacing of this type of work. And I also want to use this as a regular opportunity to just like talk through the thought process that goes into sketchnoting. Yeah, and I'll be curious to take a look in the text chat too, if you know, for folks that explore sketchnoting and maybe have been using YouTube as a resource for learning about sketchnoting. Yeah, what you've seen within this realm of kind of sped up, polished sketchnote or sketched videos versus kind of this more real-time sketching, because there's probably some other references here specifically on YouTube that might be worth checking out and exploring. Finally, the last reason that I am live streaming my sketchnotes to YouTube is to build up some videos, build up some content for paternity leave. We've mentioned this in a few videos now. My wife is pregnant with twins, due in the middle of April. So that's why there's this kind of March focus on this live streaming experiment here. And I plan to take a couple of months off from creating new videos and from hosting workshops inside of Verbal to Visual. But I want to keep these things going. I still want to publish videos regularly to YouTube. I still want workshops to be going on inside of Verbal to Visual. on that side. As some of you know, I've reached out to some folks who have been active there within Verbal to Visual to do some guest hosting. I think that'll be fun to see how that goes within Verbal to Visual. Thank you for the folks who are kind of volunteering for that. But the way that I kind of picture that working with these live streams is, let me give myself more space. What we're doing right now, there's this kind of long, slow pace of exploration here, of sketching things out. This is like the full live stream, which I'm anticipating will go probably about 90 minutes. There's the full live stream that has this slow pace to it. And again, I encourage you to like grab a notebook or a tablet and sketch along with me. But within that live stream, there's going to be, some distinct sections where we explore different topics. Right now, I'm, creating this mind map of why I'm live streaming my sketch notes. That's kind of what this first section represents. Next, I'm going to sketch out my setup, which I think will be quite a bit shorter. And then we're going to hop into some Q&A about sketchnoting. And hopefully we'll have the chance to explore maybe 2 or 3 questions. And my plan is for each of those to kind of take that section and turn them into a shorter, more polished, well, I won't even say shorter, I'll just say like an edited down video. So I will kind of cut out some of the white space. I don't think I want to do any speeding up of the text, but I think I just might kind of cut things out so that like you kind of hear me, you only like hear me speaking and see me drawing. Like both of those things are going on throughout the video. There'll be some experimentation to figure out how to do those videos. So these will be the things that I share after this live stream. I'm still kind of deciding what to do with this, the full live stream itself. I will either keep it unlisted, so that I think subscribers who get notifications sent to their email about these videos, they can still see the full live stream, but I don't think I'm going to have the full live stream as a public video once it's over. It will probably stay unlisted. So after these, I will take, each of these, edit them down, and then once a week, maybe eventually twice a week if we have a lot of them, I will publish those shorter videos so that, even folks that can't make the live stream, they'll still get to see see all of these ideas that we explored. I'll just kind of package them together in a little bit tighter of a format. So my plan is to do this, these live streams throughout the month of March. Every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Skipping Wednesday because that's when we have our workshops inside of Verbal to Visual. And I'm going to go with a consistent start time. So I wanted to give myself both like plenty of opportunities to practice this, because that'll be what I think there are maybe like 4.5 weeks, so 18 or so maybe of these live streams for me to get better at thinking and talking while writing and drawing, and deepen my connection with you, the YouTube audience, and emphasize enthusiasm over polish and slay perfectionism, and explore interesting topics together, and depict what visual thinking actually looks like, the pacing of it, talking through my thought process along the way, and building up some content to continue publishing while I take a couple of months of paternity leave. So that's the plan for March. I'm going to keep this the start time consistent at 10 a.m. just so there's some kind of regularity built in there. If you want to make this a part of your routine throughout the month, I'd love to see you regularly. And with that, I will draw some connection lines to each of those 6 points about why I'm live streaming my sketch notes. And here's the first little finished sketch note that we've created, which it's kind of fun to get to something that's not polished, not perfect. If I were doing this on my own, not live streamed, I would probably spend more time to get it rectangular. I would make things look a little bit better, but that's not really the point. That's not the point of sketchnoting. It's to communicate ideas effectively and in an engaging visual way. I think there's enough visual engagement here. So that's what I was going for. And with these, so basically what you see here, this will become kind of the first short little polished video that I will publish to YouTube, and I'll also create a blog post around within Verbal to Visual at verbaltovisual.com. So these will be this video and like the fairly high quality image of this final sketch note. That'll all be available once I get to editing these down and then sharing them. And I intentionally, I should probably add a little bit here, put in kind of some gaps here in between each of the sections. I want to that to go in the background. Basically, I guess I'll just do this. I have my second cup of coffee right beside me here, and I haven't had any of it yet during the first 45 minutes of this live stream. So there'll be like a little bit of a break and kind of like a reset in between each section of the live stream, and I'll kind of, pan over to a fresh part of the screen to explore the next topic. So that will give you a little bit of a sense for the pacing here. And while we're taking a break in between those topics, I'll hop back over to the text chat to catch up on some ideas, catch up on the conversations that have been taking place. Already, before I do that, to facilitate, I'm going to do some rearranging, but there's some purpose behind the rearranging that is not just perfectionism. I want to make this a little bit more of a rectangular image so that as I get ready to kind of see what's going on inside the text chat, I think it'll be easier to kind of show the full sketch note in a large enough way for folks to be able to see. So hopefully that's a little bit more helpful. So this is why I'm live streaming my sketch notes, and I appreciate those catching the live stream. And before we hop into the next topic, which will be the setup, the specific tools that I'm using to do this, I'm going to take a look at the text chat and see how things are going. And I'm also going to have some coffee. And I think I would be curious to hear too. I'll do some like looking back at the replay each day a little bit, because I want to refine this process. I want to get the live version of this to be as interesting and helpful as useful. So it's kind of like, I guess there's two things that I will be looking to improve. One is this live streamed experience. Two, the shorter edited videos that result from this live stream. So with that in mind, I'm always going to be open for suggestions on how to improve either of those two things. Either ways to make the live stream itself more helpful, useful, interesting. But then once I start kind of editing down and publishing the shorter videos, if you've got suggestions on how to make those helpful also. Karen says, relax, Doug, you're doing good. Thank you. I wish they had timestamps on these YouTube comments. Especially when I went for a long period of time just sketching and not actually looking at them. So again, this will be another thing for me to get good at. Try to get good at incorporating the text chat as well. We've got folks from the Netherlands, from Toronto, from Florida. Benoit makes a good point. It's true. I think there's good studies behind this that like men actually aren't as well wired for multitasking as women. Let's see if we can get better at it though. Got some good sketchnoting questions coming in. I'll try to circle back to those once we get to the Q&A portion of today's live stream. Julian, that's the question on equipment. That's what I'm going to sketch out in like 1 minute. Some folks are, Trang says, excited when watching. Love it. George says, thanks for showing the process. I love the real-time pace. And how honest / calm you all are while explaining. That's good to hear. It's kind of like there's some intention setting that I think I'm going to try to do like at the beginning of each of these. And some of those is around just like being calm and open and honest and enjoy the process and not try to go faster than feels natural. So allowing for that slower pace. I know, Liz, it was a long time without coffee. I already had 1 cup, so this is number 2. So, I'm doing okay. All right, thanks for those comments. Keep the questions coming. Questions and reactions, always helpful. Let's give ourselves a new section of this Concepts Infinite Canvas to work with as we explore the second topic for today. let's go with the title up top. I feel like there could be a game of how many times do I misspell something during a live stream. Let's use fill tool this time. All right, so for this one, compared to the last one that I just did, that was more of a mind map structure. Here I'm going to do more of a kind of sketched scene to show you like literally what's in front of me right now. And those are two good options for kind of organizing and structuring your sketch notes. When in doubt, I go to mind map because you can just like plop the topic in the center and then like branch out from there. But in some cases, like when sketching out a physical setup, something like a sketched scene makes way more sense. So that's what we're going to go with here. I think all the way up top. Let's start with, oh, here we go. I gotta train myself to do fewer undos as well. That's a challenge with digital note taking, is how easy it is to do that undo. In a attempt for perfectionism that's just not worth it. So I've got a MacBook in front of me that is propped up a little bit. There's this stand. It's called a Nulexi. What I like about this stand is it gives some like airflow for the battery. You might be able to hear a little bit of it humming in the background, but it gives some airflow to the laptop itself, but it also raises the webcam up to kind of the perfect height for the webcam portion of this live stream. So I like that for those two reasons. Then in front of me directly, let's go back to black. I've got an iPad. It's iPad Pro. I think it's the first generation of iPad Pro from like 2015, 2016. I'm actually impressed with how well it's held up over the years too. Like it still seems to be running really well. It's the larger of the two, which I think is 12.9 inch. And it's the first Apple Pencil that I'm using. And the app is called Concepts. Which I've done quite a few videos here about the app concept, so kind of check out the library. I've got a playlist where I've collected all of those videos. It's my favorite sketchnoting app right now. Infinite canvas, vector based. Once you get used to the tool setup, it's easy and quick to use. I am connected. I'm moving things around here. Again, there's a purpose behind this. I have my iPad. Oh, I should have done it the other way, but that's okay. Connected via USB to the laptop. And there's a live streaming software that's free and seems to be working really well. It's called OBS. One thing to note, my MacBook is from, I think, 2015. So I actually had to, because of I think I can't update the laptop software because the hardware is too old. So I had to go find an older version of OBS to work on my MacBook. So depending on how old or new your MacBook is, you might need to get an earlier version of OBS. But it's pretty cool. And I just have kind of two elements. What OBS does is creates this space where I can set up, okay, I want my iPad to be showing on the majority of the screen. And again, that's just through the USB. You can select that as a screen, but I actually blew it up so that you're not seeing any of the tools within Concept. You're just seeing the canvas. I might experiment with that, showing the tools maybe at some point, but I also like having just the blank canvas as our sketching space here. So that's one video input, and then the other video input is the webcam, and it's really easy to do a masking, where if you just create an image of a white circle, that can create this circular mask. Otherwise, by default, it'll be rectangular, and the circular mask around the video just gives it a little more polish, I guess. And from an audio standpoint, I have a microphone. I'm still using the trusty blue Yeti microphone. I have it positioned in that way because there's a kind of a floating shelf that I drilled into a cross beam right above me. So the mic is literally right up there. So it is above me. And I think that covers the tools. And if you have these types of tools available to you, and if you're using sketchnoting to explore a topic that you already have some experience with, there's so many directions that you can take your sketchnoting skills in general. For those that are kind of weaving sketchnoting into your current profession, if you're looking to establish yourself as someone who knows a lot about your topic, or even you just want to have conversations with other people about it, if you're getting your name out there, you're getting your work out there, I think you should consider doing something like this yourself. kind of makes me think of someone inside of Verbal to Visual, Michael. I'm not sure if Michael's still tuning in here. He said hello in the text chat earlier, but he's using sketchnoting for some weekly office hours. And I don't think he's not live streaming them quite in this way. I don't think, at least, but he's doing some sketch notes during those office hours and then posting those sketch notes after the fact. So I feel like this is kind of a potentially cool setup for someone who wants to do something like a weekly office hours around your topic, or like a couple of live sessions each week. And it's relatively easy to do. And again, for all the same reasons that I just mentioned about why I'm doing this, like a lot of those might apply to you as well, even if your work doesn't live within the realm of sketchnoting or visual thinking. You can use these tools to amplify that work, and to get your name and your work out there. So I'd be curious to hear if others are intrigued by this setup, and just by seeing what it looks and feels like to watch and experience something like this, if that has you excited to maybe try doing it yourself. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else about this setup. I love how quick it is. Like all of this stuff. I didn't start setting up for today's live stream until like 10 minutes before 10 a.m. So like that's what I enjoy about this setup, is it's real. It's pretty lightweight, since all these tools are easily available within my dedicated office here. Let me hop over to the text chat to see if there are any specific questions about this setup. Zervo says it's cool to see some live sketchnoting. It shows how long it actually creates. How long it actually takes to create something. Yes, precisely. And you can even go quicker too. Like, I think what's worth pointing out is that if you're not also talking through, if you're just doing it for yourself, I think these things, it would come out a little bit more quickly, because you wouldn't be, pausing to talk about these things also. Monica says, I love seeing you recreate your icons live. Familiar from your toolkit, but you still sometimes have to like redo certain things. Hello, text box. Thanks for the kind words. Related question to what I've got on the screen here now. How do you incorporate sketchnotes onto Zoom without an iPad or tablet with a stylus? Asking on behalf of a visual teacher who used to love whiteboards. Yeah, actually, I think I touched on this in a video called something about like live sketchnote your meetings live, sketchnote your online meetings. If someone is familiar, maybe I should just look into the archive myself. There's a video in the archive where I show a diagram of how you could use something like a document camera. It's almost an identical setup here, but instead of having that tether to the iPad Pro, that goes to a document camera, or even just any sort of like external webcam that you place above your workspace. And then you can use whatever physical materials you want in front of you. And that's your sketching space. And you've got that camera above to broadcast right to Zoom. So you could just look up a webcam. I have one slightly out of reach. You could do that with an external webcam, or specifically a document camera, which educators in particular might be more familiar with, since that is something that's commonly used in the classroom anyway. Cool. If any other questions about this setup come up for you, let me know. With that, we've still got another 24 minutes or so for today's live stream. We'll be back again tomorrow at the same time. Let's find a sketchnoting question. I'm going to go back to the top of the text chat and find a question to explore. I might do some filtering based on time and questions that I feel like I can answer well. And if any new questions come up, if you have any questions about sketchnoting that you would like us to explore today, go ahead and drop those in the text chat. Yeah, Maria dropped a good question early on here, so let's start there. The question that Maria asked: how to create sketch notes from really concept-heavy subjects. I'm a senior law student, and I do enjoy this skill, but I can't find out how to apply it to my thing. Yeah, so let's I'm gonna go specific. Sketchnoting. I think rather than sketchnoting for lawyers, I'll go sketchnoting for law school students. This is the topic that we will explore. I'll start with kind of like a mind map structure. We'll see if a better sketchnoting structure kind of emerges once we get some ideas down. If you have a specific idea for other folks in law school about how to use sketchnoting within that setting. So, first thought that comes to mind from my perception of what law school is like, which I don't have any personal experience in, but a good friend of mine went through law school 5 or 6 years ago. Like the quantity of reading is immense. So like whenever this question of how can I sketchnote within this realm comes up, I always think about like, okay, what are the constraints placed on you based on like your circumstances? What are the things that you can't control? So within like the law school setting, one of those constraints or just one of like the dynamics of that situation is just a ton of reading. So I feel like if I were in that situation, the first thing that I would try to identify is what's my during reading and after reading process. So whoops. So while reading, maybe you doing a bad job of drawing a highlighter. Maybe that's okay. while reading, you highlight. After reading, I feel like I would probably go with an index card approach, because what I'm imagining within like the law setting in particular, there are lots of details, lots of like individual principles, lots of individual case studies, and like specific cases that you probably need to be familiar with. So I feel like for each reading, having this set of index cards, each of which focuses on just a single idea. And again, focusing on like the most important ones, and maybe just have like some sort of title on the front and then some details on the back. I would do that quickly after reading. And then like what you have to work with then, if you keep those kind of grouped together for each of those individual readings, you have each of these references for kind of quick review that you could do in different locations, right? If you're studying for an exam coming up or whatever the case may be. The nice thing about index cards is like you've got that, you can take them different places and study in different environments, which is good for your brain. But then also I could see it beneficial when maybe working on a bigger project like a essay or paper or presentation maybe that you have to give. Create this big space for yourself to be able to like organize those different ideas from different sources. You can like, okay, I want to pull in this principle from this book we read. I want to pull in this example from this case. And you can use those as the building blocks for bigger things. And I guess I have a couple of big things in mind. So, and with this, maybe you do you could come up with like what you put on the front of those index cards, what you do on the back, and the diagrams too might not come in until later, but like create these quickly accessible building blocks, like idea building blocks for yourself on those index cards. Because what that set allows you to do kind of like as you rotate through those, you've got the opportunity for quick study in different locations, like I mentioned. then like what I would be interested in is more like what does the accumulation look like over time? So let's say that you have these different sets of index cards connected to different readings, different cases. It seems like those could be reusable when structuring, whether it's a paper that you have to write, a presentation that you have to give. So you could kind of pull from different sources. To draft papers or presentations. And maybe like it might not be until this stage where you start to kind of be more on the lookout for like a diagram or a scene as excuse me, you're on the lookout for like a diagram or a scene that can help provide kind of that higher level visual structure to the thing that you're creating. Because in this case, I think that like while you're doing that reading and those initial ideas, you're probably not going to want to go heavy on the visuals, heavy on like the sketches and illustrations. I would kind of wait until you are compiling the main ideas from, again, a case or a book or whatever it is. When you're combining them, like what's a good, helpful diagram to organize those, maybe like an overarching visual metaphor. So it's at this stage where you look for an overarching diagram or visual metaphor. To anchor that set of ideas. So it's like, how would you walk through that material? And here is where you could actually like give yourself a big table to work with. Maybe a couple tables. And maybe the individual cards. Trying to think of what type of diagram might be the most useful. I mean, the flow chart is always one that comes to mind. And I feel like makes sense within the law setting of like, what's the what's the logical progression through this this question, the situation, the thing that you're looking at. And maybe you can use those cards on that table and then like snap a photo so that you get the most of that chunking that you did while studying, and then like the visual reference that you created by bringing these multiple ideas together. I don't know, the visual metaphor I think that always comes to mind first for me is like the iceberg model. What do people see above the surface, and what actually lives below it? So maybe there's a visual reference or some sort of a scene that kind of can help you anchor the ideas. And that's when you can maybe, depending on, you mentioned some of these concepts are abstract, but at the core of all of those abstract concepts, my sense is that there's like some case, some situation, some real life people that did something to each other or for each other or whatever that led to that principle. So, or led to that abstract concept. So what's the kind of like people focused situation that's behind that concept? And what's like a photograph of it that might help you to like remember that abstraction? So thinking about like what photographed situation best represents a specific instance of the concept that you're trying to learn. I'm going to try to capture that. So that'll be my last point on this topic here, and then I'll hop over to the text chat to see if this is interesting or helpful. Whoops. I think I like this one the most. Within that realm of abstract ideas, because I guess we would be helpful to look at a specific abstract idea, but I think the most helpful thing is to think about like a situation that is an individual specific instance of that abstract concept. And that scene, that scenario that you picture, some form of that is what you could sketch out and then like label that scene with the related concepts. And I think there's potential there to get at multiple abstract concepts within an individual scene, within an individual situation. So that's kind of like a continuation of this process here, I feel like. But then kind of as a overarching theme here, it is this piece about finding a process that allows you to keep up with those individual chunks, individual readings, because again, my sense is that there's a large, that the pace of those, the consumption of ideas, the pace of consumption of new ideas is high within law school. So like, what's the sustainable practice for going through those ideas, capturing these individual chunks quickly and helpfully on index cards, maybe, but then what can you do with those building blocks to reinforce those ideas, help you like access them more quickly without the actual cards, but then like build up the interesting stories by pulling from different sets of cards based on whatever topic you're exploring in class that day or that week. Yeah. I think we'll wrap that one up there, and then I'll see what ideas have come through on the text chat. I kind of want to make this like this again, just so it's easier to identify what the topic is. I feel like that helps the actual topic within this little sketch note stand out a little bit better. Let me hop over to the text chat. Awesome. Okay. So no other specific thoughts related to this question. Thinking about law school and abstract concepts. But I appreciate hearing from After Truth saying very insightful and applicable. I saw some other questions come in. I apologize that we didn't have time today to get to some other questions. I think maybe tomorrow. Yeah, here's what we're gonna do. So for tomorrow's live stream, I'm coming back here again, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So 90 minutes ago from whenever it is for you right now. And I think tomorrow we'll do purely Q&A. Because today we explored 3 different topics. I started by kind of sharing why I'm live streaming my sketch notes. I'll be sharing that again. I'll be cutting down the live stream and sharing that in a future video if you didn't catch this portion of the live stream. Then I shared my specific live streaming setup, the tools that I'm using, and we had the chance to explore one question, sketchnoting for law school students with a focus on kind of more abstract concepts. And those were the 3 things that we had time for today. So I like the idea of tomorrow just doing full Q&A. And I think I should still be able to see the questions that came through on today's text chat. I probably will prioritize questions from folks who are there live tomorrow, but it's good to know maybe early on. And I will commit to doing this. At the start of tomorrow's Q&A live stream, I will pick one of the questions from today. So we'll start with that one tomorrow and then hop into some others. So with that, we'll wrap up today's live stream. Thank you so much for hanging out. This was fun. I enjoyed it. It didn't take me too long to get over the initial nerves of starting this thing. And I like it. I like this way of exploring ideas live, improvised. There's no room for perfectionism to come in. I get to have a little bit of a conversation with those watching live and participating in the text chat. So I do appreciate for anyone that watched and participated in that way. And I look forward to doing this again tomorrow and throughout the month of March. The plan, again, in case you missed this one, is for scheduling. We'll be doing this throughout March, every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, to give us plenty of opportunities to explore all the questions and use sketchnoting to chat through interesting ideas. So with that, I will wrap it up for today. Thanks again, everyone, for